listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Radio's authority on the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology, celebrating 25 years of broadcasting. Broadcasting around the world and to the great beyond.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
I'd like to welcome all our listeners listening to us on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, the Talkstar Radio Network, the Mutual Broadcast Network, and in Europe on Radio X. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I love getting your emails, X-Zone at xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. My guest this hour is John L. Steadman. And he has a fascinating new book. Yeah, we just learned about John recently. The name of his book is P Lovecraft, The Master of Horror's Influence on Modern Occultism. And let me just let you have a bit of an idea on who John is. John is a scholar of both P Lovecraft and Western occultism and has been a magical practitioner for over 35 years, working with various covens and small groups of innates. He has a Bachelor of Arts from Michigan State University, a Master of Arts from the University of Virginia, a Master of Business Administration from the University of Wisconsin, and in addition to his academic credit, he also holds degrees in various secretive, if not very secret, organizations. Joining me now is John L. Steadman. And John, welcome to the X-Zone.
Hi, thanks, Rob. I wanted to make one correction. It's actually H.P. Lovecraft and the Black Magickal Tradition. The subtitle's real small, like it's below the title. And then that other thing you read, The Master of Horror's Influence on Modern Occultism, that's the other title, the other little, the subtitle.
All right, thank you very much for bringing that to my attention, sir.
Yeah.
What was it that got you interested in black magic?
Well, I was always, as a younger person, I was always interested in horror stories and science fiction and fantasy, and I kind of just gravitated toward it. I'd like to read ghost stories when I was younger, and I discovered a volume of Lovecraft, basically a paperback volume when I was in middle school. It had a really lurid cover. It had like a orange skull with flames around it and a black background. And I figured that the stories in there would probably be good if it had a cover like that. And the stories turned out to be very frightening. It was the first experience I had with Lovecraft, so I kind of read about him. And then as I got a little older, I kind of gravitated toward magical practice like Aleister Crowley and early Wiccan religion. And then it just kind of all coalesced, more or less, when I got older.
John, let me ask you, what is today's society's attraction to the paranormal and to magic and to Wicca? What's the attraction?
Well, I think people are looking for some kind of meaning, basically, some kind of meaning outside themselves. I mean, the world has gotten kind of a lot colder, and it seems kind of confusing to people a lot of times. And I think the reason why people do practice, they want to do magical practice, and why they like to research haunted houses or paranormal phenomenon, because they're not satisfied by the answers they're getting from conventional philosophy or conventional religions. They're kind of like Emerson. Ralph Waldo Emerson had a really great quote at one time. He said that what people should do is seek an original relationship with the universe. And I think people want to do that. I mean, like when you go into a church, you can take Holy Communion if you believe in that or not,
right, yeah.
But you don't really have an original relationship with the universe. There's a priest between you and God. There are various barriers to that. And a lot of people just, quite frankly, wouldn't know how to do that anyhow. So I think people are looking for some kind of meaning that'll make them feel like that they have a little bit more control themselves. And I think they actually want to find a way to kind of like just kind of understand themselves. They want to find meaning in their life, So I think that's why they turn to occultism and to fantasy too. A lot of the people that just read science fiction or fantasy, they're again looking for something outside themselves. So I believe that's a main reason why people are drawn to that sort of thing. At least that's a reason why I'm drawn to it, but I suspect that it's that way for other people too.
You and I have to take our first commercial break. Please stand by. Great talking to you, and thank you very much for sharing your night with us here on the X Zone.
Okay.
Exonation, John L. Steadman is our special guest, and John and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't forget, you can always send an email to xzone at xzoneradiotv.com and check us out on all the social media sites, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You name it, we're there. One name, X Zone Radio TV. We'll be back on the other side of this 2-minute break. Don't go away.
You're listening to the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
Exonation, my guest this hour is John L. Steadman, and we're talking to John about everything from black magic to Wicca, because this is what he has written about. The name of his book is P Lovecraft and the Black Magickal Tradition, the Master of Horror's Influence on Modern Occultism. Do you think that occult, interest in the occult and Wicca, the paranormal, ghosts, things that go bump in the night, is because people have lost faith with society and that they're just searching for something else, or is there more behind it?
Well, a lot of people aren't searching for anything. Like, I've got a business degree, an MBA, and I found that like 90% of the people in my class, they're interested in only one thing, making a lot of money and living a comfortable life, But among the smaller percentage of people that are searching for something, like I said, I think they want something a little bit more than they're getting because, quite frankly, people don't like the concept of dying. And they want to find out if perhaps there's a way to avoid that, or if perhaps that doesn't happen at all, But religion doesn't help them much with that. I mean, it's standard mythology. You die, you go to heaven, and that's an act of faith on the part of people. And people that are more interested in kind of verifying that are drawn to the occult because they want some kind of empirical proof, or at least some kind of promise, perhaps a probability that life continues in some other form. So I think the people that are searching for that sort of thing are the ones that are interested in paranormal. I have a good friend that's a ghost hunter, and I believe that's why he's drawn to it, because when he encounters a ghost and he can't really explain it in terms of conventional knowledge, at least that's some kind of suggestion that life goes on in some form or another. Now, a magical practitioner such as myself, you have multiple confirmations of that when you do magical rituals. I wanted to kind of clarify what this book is. So what the book is, like a lot of people have misconceptions about Lovecraft. They think that he might have been a magical practitioner, or he might have been an occultist, or he might have been in touch with real extraterrestrial entities, these great old ones. And the reason why I wrote this book is to kind of clarify these issues. In the first chapter of the book, I've actually written it for fans of horror and science fiction, so you don't have to know anything about magic in order to appreciate the book. And I'm actually explaining in full detail exactly what Lovecraft knew and how much he knew about Western occultism. And then I look at issues like the Necronomicons in chapters 3 and 4, because people that are interested in this issue are interested in what the Necronomicon is, and they want to know, basically, is there a real Necronomicon that they could use for magical workings. And then in the latter half of the book, I look at Lovecraft's specific connection with black magical systems. Now, I know your show's been on the air since 1992, and you've dealt with issues like Wiccan and the voodoo religion. And what I do in this book is I actually explore Lovecraft's connection first with the voodoo, the Afro-Haitian voodoo cults, and then with the Wiccan religion. And then after that, the more direct influences, the Typhonian system of Kenneth Grant, which is an OTO system, the Church of Satan, originated by Anton LaVey in the 60s, and then the Chaos Magic Pacts. Now, those are all the great black magical systems that are in operation today. And those latter three, Lovecraft has had a very strong direct influence on those magical systems. So that's what I'm doing in the book here. I'm exploring that. That's my very specific purpose in the book. I'm not trying to convince anybody to be a magical practitioner or even to believe in magic, but along the way, the reader understands my concept of what magic is, and they might feel inclined to become a magical practitioner.
Well, let me ask you, what is your interpretation of magic?
Okay, magic can be defined very simply, and this is the way I define it in Chapter 1, as the use of language, gestures, symbolic objects like wands and swords and cups, and stylized settings in order to, quite frankly, achieve contact with extraterrestrial entities. And when I say extraterrestrial entities, that's not just an entity, but it's also like an experience too, the environment in which the entity appears. And then by achieving that kind of contact, you kind of get outside of yourself, outside your regular dimensional perspective, and you begin to gain knowledge and power. And my interpretation of black magic is not evil magic. There's nothing evil about it. A black magician is interested basically in gaining knowledge and power. A white magician, on the other hand, is interested in spiritual perfection. And according to that definition, I would classify the Catholic Church as being a white magical organization because they're primarily concerned with spiritual perfection. But the black magician is interested in knowledge and power. If they gain some kind of spiritual perfection along the way, the more is the better for that, but that's not their primary goal.
But isn't that where a wizard would fall into that category of a black magician?
Well, a wizard could be good or bad. Like in the Harry Potter books, you've got they're very clear about white and black. Lord Voldemort is a black magician, and he's interested in knowledge and power, but it's bad knowledge. It's evil knowledge, evil power. And then Dumbledore's interested in, combating that, but there's not too much spiritual perfection in the Harry Potter books. It's basically a very kind of banal, actually, definition of good or evil. But see, I take the concept of magic away from good or evil because, quite frankly, evil has nothing to do with magic. I mean, evil is purely behavior. Like a person could be a white magician. You could be the Pope. You could be Pope Francis, right? But you could still be a very evil person, So whatever your philosophical or religious beliefs are, it's immaterial in terms of your behavior. So a Catholic priest that molests children is a bad person, an evil person, even though he's following a magical system based on spiritual perfection. Conversely, a black magician could be a very ethical person, so you can't consider him to be evil. So my definition of magic takes evil entirely out of the equation.
I'm interested in hearing more about the connection between magic and extraterrestrials.
Okay. Well, what a magician does is, like I said, they try and gain contact with extraterrestrial entities. And I define them that way because a lot of the entities you're in touch with, it really would be kind of silly to define them as magical or as gods or goddesses because they're really just other forms of life. They're other forms of life. So I define them as extraterrestrial. And what I do in my book and in my practice, too, is I leave open the possibility of where these things are fictional or real because it doesn't make that much difference. All that matters to a magical practitioner is whether their magic works or not. Now, have you read the Harry Potter books?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't. Okay.
Well, in the last Harry Potter book, it's called Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Harry Potter gets struck down by Lord Voldemort near the end of the book, and he finds himself in an alternate dimension. Now, when you do magical practice, you go into alternate dimensions and you have different experiences. And Albus Dumbledore encounters Harry Potter in this alternate dimension, and they have some conversation. At the end of the conversation, Harry Potter says Dumbledore's getting ready to leave, and Harry Potter's got to wake up and go defeat Voldemort. And he turns to Dumbledore and says, "Just a minute, sir, before you leave, is this happening inside my head or is it real?" And Dumbledore says, "Well, of course it's happening inside your head, but does that mean it's not real?" And I think the little preamble to your show kind of expressed that too. You said reality, what was it? Reality is fiction, or something. You said
where
like
fact is fiction and fiction is reality.
Fiction is reality.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's happening inside your head, that doesn't mean that it's not real and that it can't make a difference in the so-called real empirical world. So that's what magic is all about. We're not insisting on reality. We're not insisting on using power and knowledge to denominate. We're insisting on learning, increasing our knowledge and our power in a good way so that we can achieve some sense of something outside of ourselves.
Then why is magic in the realm of make-believe?
Well, it's in the realm of make-believe due to the fact that a lot of magical practitioners like to cloak it all in shadows and everything. They like to feel that they're in charge, they have some kind of secret knowledge, and that's why a lot of magicians, you mentioned I was a member of various organizations that are secret organizations. I do have a few degrees in OTO, but I'm not actually that type of magical practitioner anymore, but they love to kind of do the cloak and dagger stuff because I think it makes them feel important, like they're on a higher level than everybody else and they have access to hidden things that only a few people can have access to in life. But what I do in my book, and this has kind of irritated a lot of magical practitioners, I actually take it out of the shadows. I do not believe that magic is that kind of thing. I think it's accessible to everyone, and I interpret magical experiences in terms of quantum effects as opposed to just magical effects. So I'm putting the alignment of magic totally in alignment with modern physics and quantum physics. And that's something I just touch upon in different places in my books when I talk about Lovecraft's very liberal views. He accepted the early findings of quantum physicists. So I interpret Lovecraft in those ways, but it's just something I touch on that book. I can't go into detail on that, but I am going to go into detail on that aspect of magic, the quantum aspect of magic, later on in other books, my second book and my third book.
So why is it then that magic isn't used more and taught more to help unlock the mysteries of the universe?
Because people just won't accept it. Now, I would argue right now that the modern quantum physicists have actually created a version of reality that is very similar to the views of magical reality that have been held for like hundreds of years and stuff. But the problem that a lot of people have is they just are willing to... It's like those people in business school. Like when I was in business school, I've always been a really right brain, left brain sort of person, and I found that both sides of my brains work in exemplary fashion. I could do higher mathematics and statistics just fine, the quantitative part, and I could also do the writing part and the liberal arts part, the left side of the brain. So both of them worked fine. And what I found that a lot of my colleagues in the business department, they couldn't write to save their souls. And they weren't good when it came to the qualitative stuff, but they were good when it came to the quantitative. And I would ask them, well, why is that? And they would say, well, I'm just not good at that sort of thing. And what they would do, they were already creating a barrier. They were saying, because I'm not comfortable doing it, right, because I believe that I can't do it, then I'm not going to do it. And I think it's that way with a lot of people, too. Scientists, a lot of them immediately argue that, this is not true, this is not reality, and so they dismiss it. They say, I'm not going to try anything like that because it's ridiculous and stuff like that. So they limit themselves, and the limit is only something inside their mind. They set the barricades themselves to that.
Stand by. You and I have to take a commercial break. We'll be right back. Okay. Exonation, our guest this hour is John L. Steadman. He is the author of P Lovecraft and the Black Magickal Tradition, the Master of Horror's Influence on Modern Occultism. And we'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
You're listening to the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
www.johnlsteadman.com is John's website. And once again, Exonation, he is the author of P Lovecraft and the Black Magickal Tradition, the master of horror's influence on modern occultism. And one more time, his website is www.johnlsteadman.com. In your opinion, John, what is the most significant part of your book?
Okay, well, actually, the whole book is significant, I would have to say, but I think the important part is it shows how profound of an influence Lovecraft has had on magical systems, on the black magical systems, and there is some influence on white magical systems, too. This guy, Donald Tyson, has actually formed a magical order where he's actually using Lovecraft's great old ones, kind of like mentors, to help people achieve spiritual perfection. I think that's kind of a wrong-headed interpretation of Lovecraft. Lovecraft was an atheist, He didn't believe in gods or goddesses or spiritual perfection. I believe that Lovecraft was closer to the kind of black magical thing. But if you look at Lovecraft, he's had a wide influence on Western culture in general. He's already being accepted as a very serious literary artist with his view of cosmicism, which was his defining of man's insignificance in the universe and how he used that in a literary sense. So he's being studied in colleges right now just from a literary standpoint. But he's also had tremendous influence on other aspects of our culture. This guy, Graham Harman, a professor at Cairo, has written a book called Weird Realism, and he talks about Lovecraft's influence on speculative realism. So he's actually viewing Lovecraft as equivalent to a lot of philosophers like Martin Heidegger and Pablo Picasso. Jason Colavato has written a book about Lovecraft as being the progenitor of the alien astronaut theory. So he's arguing that Lovecraft can be seen to be at the foundation of the contactees and the UFO phenomenon. And my book explores the magical aspect, but look at Lovecraft's influence on popular culture as well. I mean, there are video games out there, there are movies, there's a whole genre of literature, Cthulhu mythos fiction. So Lovecraft has a wide, all-embracing influence on Western culture. And I've sometimes jokingly said that we should maybe give him the Nobel Prize, but I'll tell you the truth, a lot of Nobel Prize winners in literature have had less of an influence on our culture than H.P. Lovecraft. So my book, the importance of my book is that I'm exploring one aspect of that very profound influence.
How do we bring the magical aspect of certain parts of society into mainstream society?
Okay, well, it's already happening in physics.
Mm-hmm.
For a long time, we've had this standard Newtonian physics. And Newtonian physics, in terms of measurement, works just fine on the larger scale. I mean, you can use it to plot the distances between planets or space travel. You can use it to track gravity. Gravity is just simply an apple falling, and you've got all these particles bombarding the apple, molecules. But the thing that bothered modern science, and this was around Lovecraft's time when this first started happening, is that when we get past the molecular level to the atomic and subatomic level, we can't do measurement properly without some other form of physics. And so that's how quantum physics came around. And what quantum physics argues is that there's absolutely no way to understand or even perceive the universe unless you're doing it in terms of certain rules that kind of try to define quantum effects. And when you get to the level of like the Heisenberg uncertainty principle or the Pauli exclusion principle of quantum physics, you're getting into a realm of alternate dimensions. You're getting into a realm where particles are no longer Newtonian particles in a clear space and time, but they're virtual particles, and they don't obey any of the levels of modern reality. And so you'll have a particle that also functions as pure energy.
Okay.
So it has wave-like potentials. So when we get into that realm, you're in the magical realm. That's the magical concept of the universe.
All right, but for the layman who doesn't really understand the science behind it.
Well, there isn't really any science behind it. Like when quantum physicists, they can actually make predictions, but they really don't know what causes quantum effects. And they speculate. They have probability distribution, amplitudes. They have all sorts of nice, clever little theories, but they don't really know what's going on. And they just kind of call it kind of a quantum effect. They have a cute little symbol for it that kind of looks like the symbol for the planet sector. But they really don't know other than being able to measure certain things, they really don't know what's going on, and even more importantly, they don't know how to manipulate that.
All right,
Now,
like
I
I
would
was saying,
argue
like I was
magicians can manipulate that.
All right, what I'm trying to get at is, how does this equate to John Q. Public, who really doesn't want to understand the science behind it or why it happens? They just want the end result. So how does this relate to them?
Well, that's what magic is. I mean, magic can't explain it. Like I define magic as the use of language, gestures, symbolic objects, and stylized sayings. I cannot tell you why the combination of those things can create quantum effects. I can't explain that. But I can tell you this. Magicians have been using a combination of those elements for a long time, and they've been gaining the quantum effects. So you don't have to believe in anything. You don't have to really understand why. It's as simple as like going over to the light switch there and turning the light on. If the light comes on, does it really matter if you understand all the electrical concepts behind it?
No,
it's not necessary.
and it's not, you're right, it's not necessary. And this is what people in society want. They don't want the hoopla. They don't want the mysticism. They want results.
And that's what I do it for. You know, I wouldn't even be involved in magic if it didn't work. You know, so I don't insist on people believing anything. You don't have to actually go out and buy expensive tools or anything. You have all the tools that you need right there. You have your human brain, and you have your aspiration, your will to do the work. You know, that's all you need. And a little bit of discipline. You need a little bit of discipline. And hopefully the ability to visualize. You know, but other than that, you don't need any expensive tools or anything. And you will get those results, and it doesn't matter how you want to define them. You know, you will get the results.
Can you give us an example?
Oh, yeah. Like if I do a magical ritual, I'll use those elements. And I like say that I'm doing a ritual based on one of Lovecraft's entities, like Cthulhu, for instance. And I want to do an invocation of Cthulhu. I want to understand what Cthulhu is. So I'd set up a ritual, you know, using my skills in doing that, and then I'll actually have an experience. And that experience will be what Cthulhu is. And it might not be the same for everybody, but I'll have that kind of experience. You know, so, and it really will work. It's like actually, it takes you like into kind of an alternate dimension. Usually when I do a ritual, I'm not doing anything. I'm kind of sitting quietly in a magical circle. I'll usually have some other assistants kind of protecting the area, because once you start doing these things, all sorts of things are kind of drawn to the area, things that might interfere with it. So I'll have like usually 2 assistants there kind of just keeping the area protected and clean, and they have some interesting experience if you talk to them. Things will actually manifest to them, but they keep it all pure and they kind of draw the fire. And what I do is I'm just sitting in a circle in a black robe, and I'm in some alternate dimension having experiences. And the experiences are just as real as the experience of talking to you right now.
How much of this is mind over matter?
It's not really, that's not really the right question to ask. Because, you know, when you talk about matter like at the quantum level, it's not really matter anymore.
All right, let me ask it another way. How much of this is real and how much of this is imaginary?
It's another question that I can't answer. It's like that Dumbledore question, you know, just because it's happening inside my head, and people looking at me sitting in that circle, they don't see nothing. They just see me sitting in a circle. There'll be like a lantern there. There might be some incense going or something, but they're not going to see anything. You know, so for them, nothing's happening at all. There's nothing real, but something is happening to me. And they might say, well, you're just imagining it and you're fictional, but I don't care what they say. As long as the light comes on when I turn the switch on, that's all I care about.
So how could anybody use this to their advantage?
Well, knowledge and power is always useful.
I agree with that. But what power and what knowledge could I gain from this kind of magic?
Well, you gain knowledge of alternate dimensions. You gain knowledge of the fact that the reality that we think isn't really that way. You get kind of like confirmation that when you die, you're not really going to pass away, but you're going to go into some other form of energy. If you build up your willpower to such an extent where you can actually become comfortable in that environment, then you can prolong your life in that environment too. I haven't died yet to verify that, but if I can exist in kind of a state of pure energy, and I'm having an experience, it's like that movie Avatar, right? Remember the movie Avatar?
Yeah.
You saw that one.
Yeah,
didn't you?
sure did.
You can transfer your consciousness to some artificial entity, and then when you die, now in that movie, of course, the theory was that you had to kind of like leave the body from time to time, but if you died, you would be kind of dispersed. You didn't actually go into the body. But look what they did at the end of the movie. I mean, his body died, and everything was transformed to another form of life. So that's what's happening in this kind of case here. Now, I can't prove any of that stuff any more than a paranormal investigator can prove that there's actually a ghost in a haunted house. They go into the haunted house, they have all these electrical things, and they're measuring something. Something's happening there, but they can't really prove that that's an actual real empirical experience.
Yeah. Is it possible that what the paranormal investigators are measuring is something that they cannot explain within the realm of this three-dimensional world, so our mind fills up the blanks with what it thinks we want it to be?
It sure does. That's what Graham Harmon in Weird Realities does, and that's what Lovecraft does too. When he creates these entities, these aren't just monsters.
Right.
A lot of people think they're kind of like immature monsters. Cthulhu's a big dragon-like thing with wings, half human. It's not that at all. If you see the description, what Lovecraft is doing, he's very cleverly using his writing abilities to create something that the mind cannot really comprehend at all. It's some alternate entity, and the mind looks at, and it puts all sorts of things in the mind to kind of fill in the blank, because the mind can't process what it's seeing.
That's
so
right.
all these elements come in. So you could say in that sense that what the mind is seeing is fictional, but there is a reality behind it. And that's what we're in touch with, and that's what we're trying to be in touch with.
I'm just trying to figure that last part out. Why are we trying to be in touch with this?
Because we want to gain knowledge and power of something outside of ourselves.
But couldn't we get that through religion?
Well, like I said, there's barriers in religion. Yes, theoretically we could. But look what the Catholic religion says. It's actually a very human-centric religion. I mean, you go in there and you take communion, and now the only magical ritual in the Catholic Church is that one, transubstantiation. They actually believe that wine and the blood actually turn into the body and blood of Christ, the real body and blood of Christ. But look what they're doing. You're kind of consuming your God the way the Aztecs used to actually consume humans that were personifying gods. They'd actually do bloody sacrifice to do that. This is kind of a more controlled kind of a ritual sacrifice, ritual cannibalism. But look what they're doing. There's a barrier between you and God.
But I think
what is it? It's Jesus.
I think that anyone who has studied theology realizes that the Holy Eucharist is a metaphor. It doesn't signify that you're actually drinking the blood of God, of Christ. It's a symbol. It's a symbol.
Yeah, the Protestants believe that. They believe it's symbolic, but the Catholics actually do believe that transforms into the body and blood of Christ. But when you think about you're consuming the body and blood of Christ, this is all taken on faith. What you're supposed to do is this: you go take the communion, and then it's supposed to bring you closer to God by consuming the body and blood of Christ, but you've still got a barrier between you and alternate reality, and it's Jesus now. Jesus is going to save you. God is going to save you, but a magical practitioner, they don't want any barriers. They want the direct experience, or as direct as it can be given human constraints.
So is it possible that magical practitioners are in fact the devil?
No. The devil is, again, first of all, the devil is based on a pagan concept, the horned gods, and there was nothing evil about those gods. And what happened when the Catholic Church was trying to consolidate itself back in the Middle Ages, they kind of lumped all those horned entities into a concept of the devil. But if you actually look at the Bible doesn't really give you a clear definition of the devil at all. There's a scene where the devil's trying to show Jesus the kingdoms of the world and trying to tempt him. There's no description of what the devil looks like at all there. All the concept of the devil came along later with the demonologists and stuff. And what the Christianity was doing is there was still a lot of pagan practice when they were consolidating themselves. So they took all those pagan gods and threw them into concepts and said they were evil. But there's no evil associated.
All right, so that's Christianity. Let's talk about a different religion. Let's talk about Islam.
Right.
You've got all these different religions who are at war with each other, basically, because everyone wants to be the head honcho, the big kid on the block. I've got more people than you have. The more people you have, the more power you have.
Right.
So where does magic fit in all this?
Well, magic is a part of any place that's got a religion, they've got magical practitioners. And the magical practitioners around the world I suspect, because I haven't interviewed them, but around the world, they're trying to get into that original relationship that I talked about before. As for the religion people, they do the same thing. They cater to the 90% of the culture. They're just plain lazy and only interested in human-centric concerns, making money, having a big house, having a good job. Now, I like all that stuff, and I have a good job, and I have a good house, okay? But I have other concerns, too. But only a small percentage of the people are really interested in breaking beyond the barrier, understanding that the religion always puts up barricades. If you're in Islam, then you got another barricade, right? You got Muhammad. There is only one God, it says in the Quran, and Muhammad is his prophet. There's your Jesus symbol again. And again, you have to go through Muhammad to get to God. So there are barriers in all these religions.
So what's wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with it. But if there's a barrier, and you're content to be having a barrier between you and reality or alternate reality or actually a direct relationship, then you can't get to that. You can't understand it. You have to just take it on faith that you're going to get there after you're dead. And I don't like taking things on faith. I like to verify things for myself.
If you like to verify things and you don't take things on faith, how can you verify that what you see when you're in one of your magical states is real?
I believe that it's real because it's just as real as, like I said, talking to you now. But I can't prove that. I can't prove that empirically. But then again, the Christians can't prove it. Can they prove the existence of God? Can they prove that Jesus is actually their Savior and he'll bring them there? Can the Islamic people do it? They're even farther away from proving it than I am. Because at least I have experience of alternate realities. They have no experience. It's all based on faith.
All right, we've got to take our final break. Please stand by. Exo Nation, John L. Steadman is our guest. His website, johnlsteadman.com. We'll be back on the other side of this break as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. All right, the question to you for this segment, are you a believer or are you a skeptic? Send me your email, xzone at xzoneradiotv.com. I'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
You're listening to the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
John L. Steadman is our special guest explanation. His book is P Lovecraft and the Black Magickal Tradition, the Master of Horror's Influence on Modern Occultism. It's available from the people at Weezer Books, but if you'd like to contact John through his website, it's johnlsteadman.com. John, where do you see magic in the future? Is magic going to play a larger role in society?
I believe so, because ultimately what's going to happen is this. I think that science is going to find out, as science gets more and more refined and it gets more quantified, science is going to find something they have, some problem they have where they can't really quantify any more than I can quantify the things I'm talking about. And so they're going to have to find a way, some viable way to try and quantify their speculations if they're going to be of any value. Right now, they're no value whatsoever. Like a quantum physics, what they do is the only way they can do things is by causing trouble. Like to create a nuclear bomb, you have to just cause nucleus to jump out of other nucleuses, and then that causes a chain reaction, and you have an explosion. That's about all they can do right now, other than make predictions at the subatomic level. They can only cause trouble. So in order to actually find more productive ways to use quantum physics, they're going to have to find a way to do that, to quantify, and magic will help them do that. Even though magic can't always define why it does something. It'll help him quantify that. So I think eventually, as the new millennium progresses, science and magic are going to be hand in hand again, like they were at the beginning.
Right.
You know, at the beginning, alchemy and magic and science, they were all kind of conjoined. I wanted to get back to something, though. I said some statements that might be kind of harsh about Christianity. I don't want to be misinterpreted there. I think Christianity is a very strong force for good, but I just think it doesn't go. Religion does not go far enough for some people. And I think the reason why that's so is a show like this. This is the X Zone, right?
Yep.
We're talking about these kind of issues, right? If religion went far enough for like 90% of the people, we wouldn't even have this show. There won't be any questions.
Oh, sure there would.
Be
I disagree with you. I disagree with you 100%. There will always be questions. And this is what makes this race of ours so great, because we don't take anything on blind faith. We want proof. We will keep asking questions. And when the human race stop asking questions, that's when the human race will be over.
That's right. I agree fully on that.
So questions are an important part of everyday life, because no one has all the answers. No one. Whether they're searching for a cure to a disease, whether they're searching for the next best propulsion system going to use in a rocket going into outer space, or whether they're just whether or not they're just looking for the basic answer of why are we here?
Well, that's what magic is all about.
But it can't be. It can't be, because if magic was about answering questions, then all the questions would be answered, and we'd be a lot further in our evolution than we are.
Well, it's not necessarily giving you answers that you can prove empirically, but it is asking questions. When you go into a magical circle, you're saying, what is this thing? Cthulhu,
right.
What is this thing? Yog-Sothoth. And so you're going out there and trying to find out, just like you go out and try and find anything in the real empirical world. So it's a attempt to answer questions. Whether it gives you answers that satisfies the more scientific or quantitative part, that's another question entirely. But magic is designed to actually ask questions.
Hey, John, we're running out of time for tonight. I want to thank you so much for joining us. Exo Nation, John L. Steadman is his name. His website is johnlsteadman.com. I'll be back tomorrow night as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. But X Zone, always keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light, and never, ever stop asking questions. Good night, everyone.